The first time I saw a police cruiser roll up to my driveway, my stomach dropped so hard it felt like I missed a step. Linda Parker, president of our Homeowners Association, was right behind it, arms folded, wearing that little victory smile like she'd already written the headline. And for about 10 seconds, the entire street looked at me like I was about to get arrested over solar panels. Let me back up, because this wasn't some "I forgot to mow my lawn" thing. This was Maple Grove Estates, clean sidewalks, matching mailboxes, and neighbors who wave with one hand while clutching their HOA handbook with the other. I'm Ethan Miller. I work a regular job, I pay my taxes, I keep my place tidy, and I moved here because I wanted quiet. What I didn't realize is quiet in an HOA neighborhood doesn't mean peaceful. It means controlled. I'd been in the house a few months when my electric bill decided it wanted to cosplay as a car payment. So I did what a lot of people do. Now I got a solar company out, ran the numbers, and scheduled an install. Nothing exotic, nothing weird. Just standard panels mounted flush to the roof, black on black, clean lines. I even did the right thing. I filled out the architectural request form, attached the plan drawings, included the panel specs, and sent it in like a responsible adult who believes paperwork is real-life armor. Linda emailed back 2 days later with a rejection that made 0 sense. Your panels violate community aesthetics and may impact property values. She actually wrote property values like my roof was about to tank the entire zip code. I replied politely, too politely, honestly. I asked which specific guideline I violated and if there was a way to modify the layout to comply. Linda came back with that HOA classic vague rules hard tone. Any rooftop installation visible from the street is not permitted. Except, that wasn't in our governing documents. Not like she said it was. Then the pressure started. One letter in my mailbox, then another certified mail like I was being served for a crime. The language got sharper every time. Violation notice, daily fines, failure to comply. She even tossed in this gem toe authorization may be issued for non-compliant vehicles and equipment. As if my house was a construction site and not a home. I scheduled a meeting with the board, and Linda made sure it felt like an interrogation. She sat at the head of the table with a clipboard, 2 other board members staring at their hands like they'd rather be anywhere else, and Linda talking to me like I was 12, and she'd caught me drawing on the walls. "I'm not trying to be difficult," I said, still doing that thing where I thought being calm would make her reasonable. Linda didn't even blink. "You changed the look of the community without approval. This isn't negotiable." The install date was coming fast, and rescheduling meant losing a discount I couldn't afford to lose. So I did what most normal people do when they feel cornered. I tried to compromise. I offered to move the panels to the back slope even though that reduced output. I offered to add a trim skirt. I offered to paint conduit. I was bending over backwards while she sat there inventing new reasons. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't about panels. This was about control. The next week, Linda's letters started sounding less like rules and more like threats. I'd come home from work and feel my chest tighten just walking to the mailbox because every envelope felt like another shove. My neighbors started doing that thing where they stare just a little too long, then pretend they weren't. One guy stopped waving altogether. It got under my skin in a way I didn't expect. Not because I thought I was wrong, but because I started doing the math in my head. The fines, the time, the stress, the idea of paying a lawyer just to exist peacefully on my own property. One night, I sat at my kitchen table with my laptop open, finger hovering over the button to cancel a legal consult I'd booked, thinking if I walk away, this ends faster. If I fight, how much is this going to cost me? And then I looked at the stack of letters again, 3 certified notices in a week, and I realized something else. If I folded, Linda wouldn't stop. She'd just learned that she could push harder next time on me or whoever annoyed her next. So I went into document mode. I printed every email. I saved every letter. I highlighted dates, quotes, and contradictions. I pulled up our HOA docs and marked the sections she kept pretending existed. I also looked up state protections for solar access because, yeah, there are laws for this, and Linda's clipboard doesn't outrank them. I built a folder so thick it felt ridiculous, until it didn't. The install happened. Clean, professional, quiet. 2 guys, a ladder, a drill for a couple hours, and then it was done. The panels looked fine, honestly nicer than half the roof lines on the block. Linda lost it. She marched up my driveway the next morning like she owned it, stood at the edge of my walkway, and announced loud enough for the neighbors to hear, "You're in violation. I'm documenting this." Then she held her phone up and started taking pictures of my house like she was a reporter at a crime scene. I told her, "Linda, please get off my property." She tilted her head, that fake sweet smile snapping into place. "I'm doing my job." And then she did the most HOA thing imaginable. She called the police. When I heard the sirens, I actually laughed at first, like a short disbelieving laugh, because surely nobody would do that. Surely. But there it was. A cruiser parked at my curb, a uniform stepping out, and Linda practically glued to his shoulder, ready to narrate her version of reality. The street turned into a theater. Curtains cracked open. People stood on porches with coffee mugs they weren't drinking. Someone's sprinkler suddenly needed adjusting. You could feel the hunger for drama hanging in the air. The officer introduced himself. Officer Grant Reynolds. Calm voice, neutral face, the exact energy of someone who already knew this was going to be nonsense. Linda jumped in immediately. "Officer, he's violating the HOA. He installed unauthorized equipment. We have rules. He's refusing to comply." Officer Reynolds didn't look impressed. He looked tired. He turned to me. "Sir, what's going on?" I took a breath, kept my voice steady, and said, "I installed solar panels. I submitted the paperwork. I have all the documentation. This is a civil issue." Linda snapped. "It's not civil when someone breaks rules that protect the community." Officer Reynolds lifted a hand slightly, just enough to stop her momentum. Then he asked me one question that changed the entire temperature of the street. "Did you receive an official denial from the board before you installed?" I didn't argue. I didn't explain. I just walked inside, grabbed my folder, and came back out. I handed him the email from Linda. I handed him my application packet. I handed him the HOA docs with my highlights. I handed him the certified letters with dates showing escalation. The paper stack landed in his hands like a weight. Officer Reynolds flipped through it slow and methodical. You could actually see Linda's confidence flicker. He looked up at her. "Ma'am, did the board vote to deny this, or was this your decision?" Linda's mouth opened, then closed, then opened again. "As president, I have authority to—" Officer Reynolds cut in, still calm. "Authority to enforce rules, sure, but I'm asking if there's a recorded board decision. Meeting minutes, a vote, anything." Linda's voice sharpened. "This is an HOA matter. He's threatening property values." Officer Reynolds nodded once like he'd heard that phrase 1,000 times. Then he asked the second question, quiet, surgical. "Did you consult the HOA attorney before issuing these notices and threats of towing?" Linda's face went tight. Her eyes moved just for a second toward the neighbors watching. She was realizing she didn't have an audience anymore, she had witnesses. Officer Reynolds turned to me. "Mr. Miller, based on what you've shown me, there's no criminal issue here. This is civil. And if she's using law enforcement to harass you or intimidate you over a disputed HOA action—" He paused, glanced at Linda again. "That can become a different kind of problem." Linda's voice cracked a little. "I'm not harassing anyone. I'm protecting the community." Officer Reynolds handed the folder back to me carefully, like it mattered. "Ma'am, do not call 911 for HOA compliance. If you have an issue, handle it through proper civil channels." Linda sputtered. "He's non-compliant." Officer Reynolds didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. "If you continue escalating without proper documentation, you're exposing the association and possibly yourself to liability." That sentence hit harder than any fine notice she'd ever mailed. You could see it. Her shoulders dropped a fraction. Her jaw clenched. The power in her little clipboard world evaporated in front of everyone. And then something happened that Linda definitely didn't plan for. My neighbor Miguel, quiet guy, keeps to himself, stepped off his porch and said, "For what it's worth, solar doesn't lower values. My brother sells homes. Buyers ask for it." Another neighbor murmured, "Yeah, I've thought about getting panels too." Linda looked around like she expected backup, like the street would rally behind her. But nobody moved. Nobody defended her. Nobody wanted to be the next target. Within 2 days, the HOA sent a community-wide email. Not from Linda, just the board. It said all solar-related violations were being paused for legal review. That's HOA speak for, "We realized we're standing on thin ice." 48 hours after the police visit, there was an emergency meeting. Packed room, people standing along the walls. The HOA attorney spoke in the kind of voice that doesn't care about Linda's feelings, short, factual, brutal. He explained state protections, selective enforcement, and personal exposure for board members who go rogue. He didn't say Linda's name much, but every sentence pointed straight at her. When it came time to vote, it was fast, clean, no dramatic speeches, just a motion a second and hands raised. Unanimous. Linda Parker wasn't the HOA president anymore by the end of that meeting. And the last thing I saw before I walked out was her sitting stiff in her chair, lips pressed tight, clipboard resting uselessly in her lap. I didn't celebrate. I didn't even smile. I just stepped into the hallway, exhaled once, and kept walking because the only victory I wanted was my life back. Lesson: know your rights, keep your receipts, and never let a bully with a clipboard run your home.